Well, good morning and welcome back to another absolutely glorious morning here in Cambridge. Now, as you can probably tell, it's warming up, hence the hat, keep the sun off my head, and a nice drink instead of my coffee. What we're going to do today is I'm going to give you an update on a whole load of projects that I've been working on. Some of them you will have already seen, some of them you won't. So if that sounds interesting, let's get into it. So a few weeks ago, I set out to build a small plug-in solar system for £250. And in that video, I showed you an app that I'd built that allowed you to use the PVGIS database to predict what your plug-in solar system will generate. Now, for a quick recap, the system comprised of this solar panel, the middle one of these three, which is connected to the AP1 system's microinverter that's in the garage. So there is a panel, a bit of cable, a couple of hooks, and a microinverter with a plug on the end of it. That's it. Now, I didn't quite get to £250. The whole system, I think, cost £263. Then when we plugged in the location, the orientation of the panel, all of the information into the tool that I built, it predicted that that system would generate about 30 kilowatt hours in a month. So let's pull up the data and let's take a look. As you can see, we had a pretty rubbish start to June. The generation was way down, but at the end of June, it really picked up when we had our mini heat wave. And if you look at it, we made about 25 kilowatt hours throughout the month. Ignore the big spike, that was me just doing something silly. But we made about 25 kilowatt hours. So we were within a few percent of the total. And I think if we'd have had a good beginning to June, we'd have been bang on at about roughly 1 kilowatt hour per day. So the whole point of that project was to try and build the lowest cost plug-in solar system that I could. The next project, which I'm just about to start, is to build a more upmarket version of a plug-in solar system. For that, let's go around the side of the house and I'll show you what I'm planning. So I'm round at the side of the house where the heat pump lives, and as you can see, we've got these vast expanses of wall that are getting lots of sunlight. So my plan here is to install 4 very lightweight flexible solar panels on the wall here. Now, all 4 of those will plug into a microinverter, which will then connect over here. Now, as you can see, in advance of this project, I've had an outdoor rated socket fitted, and if I can get my, whoops, that's not supposed to happen. What you can see in here is we have a bidirectional RCBO. So this is all set up with this socket so we can feed power back into the network. And we've also got our Shelly in here, which is going to monitor exactly how much energy this system is going to generate. And then that is all going to feed back into my solar generation dashboard, which you can find on my website over at jonathantracy.com. Now, in that dashboard, what I do is I break down all the individual systems. So right now, you've got my large solar array system with the 3 different arrays on the 3 different roofs. You've also got the 2 EcoFlow systems. So we're actually going to be decommissioning one of the EcoFlow systems, the old PowerStream system, and we're going to be replacing it with this when this system goes online, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Now, a lot of you have been asking about what happened to the flexible solar panels that you were planning to install on the fence. Well, these are those panels. These are 120 watt each, and they're okay. They produce a reasonable amount, certainly nowhere near something like those you see on the fence there. But they just don't produce enough to make it worthwhile. I don't think we'd ever get our money back on these panels. Now, one of the suggestions somebody had was doing exactly what I've been testing here, is could you mount them on a tabletop and use them as sort of a garden table? Well, yes, you could. Unfortunately, they're slightly too big for my table, but this gets in the way. And unfortunately, this doesn't pass the wife acceptance test of having cables strewn under the table. So really what I'm looking for are some form of panels that I can either add multiple onto to the table that connect underneath, so all the cabling is hidden away. I did try putting a Perspex surface over the top of these. They are designed to be weatherproof, but I'm not sure how, grandson resistant that they really are. So I did put a Perspex screen over this. It just became so hot. You put your hands on it and your hands were burning. So that's really not going to work. I'll find a use for them at some point in the future. Now, one of the things I've talked about in the past was over the summer months, I really wanted to change my tariff. I wanted to change to Octopus Flux. And take the hat off. And it can even change my glasses because you don't need sunglasses in the house. So my plan was to go to Flux because Flux gives me a much better export rate. Obviously at this time of the year with all of the gorgeous sunshine that we've been having, we're able to export a lot of energy. So I want to try and maximize our own use, become a bit more self-sufficient, but also to make as much money as we can to cover our winter bills. So in the middle of last month, Flux suddenly became available again. So I switched, and let me show you what impact that made. Now, ignore the thing here. Upcoming project, really excited. I'll tell you more about that in the near future. Okay, so if you want to follow along, head over to my website to jonathantracy.com and head up to the menu at the top to data visualization and head down to energy bills. Now, for those that are new to the channel, I publish all of my data online as soon as it becomes available. So for my solar generation, it's every single day. My heat pump, I only publish that data monthly just because of the way it's aggregated. There is also a data visualization for the stream system that is currently under my desk here. And then the final one is my energy bills. So how much am I paying? How much am I getting for my export, for Axle VPP? All of that gets aggregated into this dashboard. So let me just zoom it up a little bit. And this dashboard is pretty simple. Again, you can follow along. When you first come in, you will get data going back to 2024. So as I say, every single day, this dashboard gets updated with how much am I spending, how much am I getting paid for export. So you get a full total of so far, how much have I spent, all across there. And over those 3 years, I've paid £751 for energy. But that is not really the true picture. Really, if we look at 2026 as an example. So 2026, we started out obviously in January. We import a lot of energy in January because we run our whole house on electricity, our heat pump, our electric cars, everything. And we export, which is the little green bar, a very small amount. Then as we go towards the summer, you'll see the amount we import goes down and the amount we export goes up. Makes sense. But if we just jump into last month, so we just click on the bar, what you can see here is a day-by-day representation of the month of June. Now again, the reason the colors change halfway through is that's where I changed from Octopus Intelligent Go to Flux. And I also changed my strategy of how I run my house. So on Octopus Intelligent Go, the perceived wisdom is you charge your house batteries up on the cheap rate electricity at night. So you come into the day almost fully charged. You then export as much as you possibly can during the day at, if you're on Octopus Outgoing, at about 12 pence per kilowatt hour. And if I click across here to the price chart, you'll see I was making sort of 3 pence a day. Now, let's just turn off those purple bars. That's Axle VPP, that's something different. But if I turn that off, you can see there we were making, on some days, sort of £2, some days about £3 from export. And that offsets, obviously, what you import during the night, charging of your EVs and everything else. And that worked. We were making a profit. These 3 days here, this is the changeover to Flux. Basically, I changed tariff, but then didn't stop my car from charging and doing all the things I should have done. But as you can see, once we got through those 3 days, we started to settle in to importing very little and exporting quite a lot. Now, the reason for that is the Flux tariff rewards you for exporting between 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 7 o'clock in the evening. And in fact, it rewards you at almost 2.5 times the rate you would get from outgoing Octopus. So it is in my best interest to run my batteries down, charge them all up through the day, then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon start exporting. And that's exactly what I've been doing. So let's jump across to the beginning of July. So it's a little clearer here because we've just only 4 days into July. We've only got 4 days data. As you can see, again, if I just go back to the import chart, we are importing a very small amount of energy, 1 to 2 kilowatt hours a day. And the reason for that is that the only major use of energy happens for me at about 2:30 in the morning, which is the cheaper rate on Flux, between 2 and 5 in the morning. So I actually heat my hot water with my heat pump. I draw energy from the grid from that. But as you can see there, we exported nearly 15 kilowatt hours that day, nearly 25 kilowatt hours that day. So you multiply that by what I'm getting paid, about 29 pence per kilowatt hour, and it starts to make a huge amount of sense. And in fact, if I scroll down, you can see that we've only imported 9.6 kilowatt hours from the grid. We've exported 74.7 in 4 days. And that's reflected up here at the top. So it gives us our price for import, our standing charge. So we're actually paying more in standing charges this month than we are for importing energy. Then we have what we've been paid for export. So far in July, there's been no Axle VPP events. So we are £15.52 in credit after 4 days. And this is the power of the Flux tariff. If you don't need large amounts of energy to charge your EVs, then this might work for you. Now, again, most people who've been on the channel for a while know we have 2 electric vehicles. Now, we don't drive a huge amount, but what we do is we charge our batteries during the day. So we start off in the morning, the house batteries will be at sort of 20%. We will charge them up all day. They're usually full on a nice sunny day like today by lunchtime. And that means between 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock, we have an excess of energy. I could export that to the grid and get paid about 10 pence per kilowatt hour for it. But I don't. What I do is I put that into the EVs. I put that into the hot tub or anything else that needs energy. Then at 4 o'clock, my batteries that are 100%, I start exporting to the grid. And that means that, on average, we're making between £4 and £5.50 a day. Now, if we can do that for every single day of July, as you can see, that starts to offset a large amount of your energy bill. And in fact, if I go to 2026 and I go to cumulative, and in fact, let's just jump back to 2025 so you can see how this works. So you can see we start off on the 1st of January at £0, and then obviously we start owing Octopus money. But there reaches a point, usually some point in March, where we start exporting, so that amount goes down, and at some point you cross over into them owing you. Now, last year, we made it all the way until the 24th of November before we actually went back into the red. And luckily, with a few extra credits, we actually offset that. So if we look at 2026, we are at that point today. We are £2.74 in credit. So the graph is just about to start going green. And the plan is to export as much as I possibly can using the Flux tariff to make as much money as we possibly can as we head into, hopefully, a nice late summer, early autumn. And then at some point, we'll probably get back to, I would say, October. We'll change back to Intelligent Go for the winter months. Anyway, if you want to know any more about these dashboards, do let me know, and I'll maybe do a more in-depth video. Now, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, can I get this for my systems at home? And now, the web version, it's not easy. It's a nice facade on a whole lot of chaos behind it. But what I have been doing is working on an app. Here is an example of it. Just a very simple iOS app. Just click into the sample dashboard. It has all my data in there. And again, you can see all the different charts and different ways of presenting it. This is still very much a work in progress. I don't know if this will ever be released. I'm learning iOS programming as I go, so I don't know if it's going to take me another 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years. That's it for today's video. I hope you found these short updates interesting. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments below. Always happy to answer any questions that I possibly can. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.